Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Tuesday, July 25th, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my $19 rundown best bet, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Tuesday in Major League Baseball. First up, we go to Comerica Park as the Angels take on the Tigers. We're going to see Griffin Canning and Eduardo Rodriguez on the mound in this one. Now, both these starting pitchers coming off good outings in their last starts. Griffin Canning against the Yankees, 5 2/3 innings, 2 runs, 12 strikeouts in a 4-3 Angels win. Eduardo Rodriguez against the lowly Royals goes 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, only 2 runs in a 3-2 Tigers win. But I do think the matchup here benefits the Angels more. Eduardo Rodriguez, a lefty, facing an Angels team that may not have Mike Trout in the lineup, but still in the last 30 days is top 5 in baseball in team OPS and isolated power against lefties, and also has a 12% walk percentage, which is the highest in baseball. Griffin Canning is facing a Tigers team that offensively hasn't been great this season, especially against right-handed pitchers. I like the Angels in this one on the money line on the road. Next up, it's the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. We're going to see Kyle Gibson and Taijuan Walker on the mound in this one. Now, both these starting pitchers have ERAs above 5 in the month of July, so not really in the best of form. But I do think, and also both of these teams offensively against righties in the last month, pretty similar numbers. I still think Taijuan Walker is the better option here on the mound. I also think the Phillies have the better bullpen, so I'm willing to take the Philadelphia Phillies here on the money line. Walker, when he's pitching at Citizens Bank Park, is 5-1 with a 2.76 ERA this season. 49 innings, 47 strikeouts. The control's been off a little bit at home, but still, he has been really sharp at Citizens Bank Park. And Kyle Gibson, he's been really inconsistent lately. He had a pretty good outing his last start against the Rays. Before that, gave up 5 earned runs against the Marlins with only 1 strikeout through 5 1/3. I don't love this spot for him. Give me the Philadelphia Phillies on the money line. Next up, we go to the first of many interleague rivalry games this week in baseball. Edward Cabrera and Tyler Glasnow for this Marlins and Rays matchup. I don't love the way the Marlins are playing right now. We saw them go on a pretty significant losing streak, and they lost a couple of games at home against the Colorado Rockies of all teams, a team that never really plays too well on the road. And now you're facing Tyler Glasnow, who is a strikeout-dependent starter, so he probably is not going to go too deep in this ballgame. But as of late, he's actually been able to go 6 and 7 innings his last 2 starts, racking up 16 strikeouts, only giving up 3 earned runs along the way. He's in really good form going into this start. I think he pitches really well in the first half of this game. And Edward Cabrera, he's also a strikeout-dependent starter, but his control's been off for a majority of this season. 44 walks already in only 72 innings of work. I like the Rays in the first 5 innings of this one. I think if it's a close game late, the Marlins have a pretty solid bullpen, but right now I like Tampa Bay in the first half of this one, so I'm going to lay the half a run with Tampa Bay. Next up, it's the Colorado Rockies taking on the Washington Nationals. Austin Gomber and Trevor Williams are your starters. I know Gomber's been better on the road than he has been at Coors Field, but the Nationals have really crushed lefties in the last month or so, as they're number 2 in baseball in team OPS and isolated power in the last 30 days, with a very low strikeout rate to go with it. I think Gomber could be in trouble in this game. Trevor Williams, he doesn't have the best numbers on paper, but he's been able to give the Nationals some really solid innings this season. 98 2/3 innings with a 4.38 ERA. You'll take that all day long, and even lower ERA at home. Give me the Washington Nationals on the money line in this one. Next up, we see the Atlanta Braves taking on the Boston Red Sox. No official starter for Boston right now. We should see Charlie Morton going for Atlanta. Not my favorite game on the board. I'd like to see who the Red Sox decide to go with as starting pitcher. But Charlie Morton's been pitching well this season in the month of July. Even though his last start wasn't his best, he's still in 24 2/3 innings in July as a 1.82 ERA. He's pitched well on the road. He's got that sub-3 ERA there. I think the Atlanta Braves lineup will be able to back him up as they have been all season long. So I lean here with the Atlanta Braves in the money line, but like I said, staying away from this one. Next up, it's the Texas Rangers taking on the Houston Astros. JP France is going for Houston. No official starter for the Rangers. Could be a bullpen game for Texas. Don't really love their chances here. JP France has pitched well, now more so on the road than at home, but still in the month of July, a 3.12 ERA in 17 1/3 innings. He's keeping the ball on the ground. He's only given up 1 home run his last 3 starts combined. The Rangers have a very tough lineup. It's going to be a tough matchup for France, but the Astros lineup should be able to back them up. Good bullpen to go with it. So another game where I'm not crazy about it, but I'm leaning towards the Astros on the money line here. Next up, we go to the Subway Series as the Mets take on the Yankees. Justin Verlander and Domingo Germán are your starters. I like the Mets in this matchup. I think they have the better starting pitcher on the mound, even though Germán threw a perfect game this season. And I also, even though Verlander has struggled on the road this year, the Yankees have also struggled against right-handed pitchers without Aaron Judge in the lineup. In the last 30 days, New York's ranked 24th in baseball in team OPS against righties, 26th in isolated power. So I think Verlander pitches pretty well. Germán hasn't pitched too well at Yankee Stadium this season. The Mets, even though they had a pretty rough series at Fenway Park, they are a team, and lineup-wise, is hitting righties very well in the last month. They're 7th in baseball in isolated power. They're top 15 in team OPS. They don't really strike out much against righties either. I think Germán had some issues in this game. He gave up 5 earned runs his last start against the Angels through 6 innings. Give me the New York Mets here on the money line on the road. Next up, we go to Cleveland as the Guardians take on the Royals. We're going to see Aaron Savale and Zach Greinke as the starters. I like the over in this game. I think both teams are going to help us chip in and get us over this number. As Savale, in his last 2 starts, I'm a little bit concerned with the fact that he hasn't been able to earn a lot of missed bats and earn strikeouts. Only 5 strikeouts his last 10 1/3 innings, and overall this season 49 Ks in 63 innings. He's got that 2.71 ERA, a little bit steeper at Progressive Field, and his expected numbers aren't great. So even though the Royals are not a great lineup, I still think they'll be able to get to Savale in this one. Zach Greinke on the other side, I think it's a really good matchup for Cleveland's bats. This is a team that does not strike out much at all, and we saw that when Greinke pitched against these Guardians back on June 28th or June 29th, and Greinke went 6 innings. He only gave up 2 runs, but he had no strikeouts, and he gave up 11 base hits. So the Guardians, they had so many runners on base, so many opportunities to score. They went 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position in that game, and they left 10 men on base. So I don't think it's going to happen here at Progressive Field when the Guardians really need these games, need to pick up these wins. I think we're going to see a high-scoring affair. I don't love the Royals' bullpen. The Guardians' bullpen hasn't been the best in the last 30 days ERA-wise. It's also a little bit fatigued going into this series. Give me the over here in Guardians-Royals. Next up, we see the Seattle Mariners taking on the Minnesota Twins. We're going to see George Kirby and Pablo Lopez on the mound in this one. We saw the same pitching matchup last week, George Kirby versus Pablo Lopez. It was a 5-0 Mariners win. George Kirby went 7 innings, a shutout ball, gave up no walks, only 4 base hits with 10 strikeouts. And Pablo Lopez went 5 innings, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts. It really wasn't a terrible outing, but he did give up another home run, makes it 3 home runs his last 10 2/3. He hasn't pitched too well at Target Field this season, a 4.98 ERA. I think Kirby's the better option here on the mound to start this game. Both of these bullpens are pretty solid, but I do think the advantage goes to Seattle there. Give me the Mariners here on the money line on the road. Next up, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the Chicago White Sox. Another big-time rivalry series here. Kyle Hendricks and Michael Kopech are your projected starters. Both of these starting pitchers had nice bounce-back outings. Their last start, Kyle Hendricks against the Nationals, 6 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts, no home runs, and no walks in an 8-3 Cubs win. And Kyle Hendricks has not walked a single batter his last 3 starts and only 1 walk combined his last 5 outings. So, yes, he's given up some earned runs and some sharp contact, the home run ball, but at least he's not putting runners on for free via the free pass. The same cannot be said about Michael Kopech, who has given up a lot of walks recently, and overall this season, 57 walks in 92 1/3 innings. He's given up 15 walks his last 3 starts combined against the Braves, Angels, and Mets. It's only a span of about 10 1/3 innings, so that's a concern for me. Even in that start against the Mets where he went 5 2/3, he only gave up 1 earned run, he had 5 strikeouts. He walked 4 batters in that game. But what I also noticed is that Kopech really struggled with left-handed hitters in that ball game. Gave up a base hit and a home run to Omar Narvaez. He walked Lindor. I think he walked McNeil and Beatty. So really, his big struggles in that start were against the lefties for the New York Mets. Now, the Chicago Cubs don't have a ton of lefties in the lineup, but they do have one of the hottest hitters in baseball, who is a lefty right now, in Cody Bellinger, who is just crushing the ball. Could be a really nice pickup at the trade deadline for a potential, a buying team at the deadline. But I think I would look at Cody Bellinger's over total bases, home runs, home run prop. I think Bellinger has a big day here, but I do think Hendricks is a better starting pitcher. I think he's more trustworthy as well. He's got a good ERA on the road this season at 2.53. I like his control. He's only that 1 walk in those 5 starts. I think he's a better starting pitcher here, so give me the Chicago Cubs here on the money line. Next up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. We're going to see Andrew Abbott and Corbin Burns again in this matchup. It feels like I'm talking about these 2 starting pitchers in this exact matchup almost every day on the rundown. Andrew Abbott made his MLB debut on June 5th. This is going to be the 4th start he's had against Milwaukee in his career. It's unbelievable, but it's really tough to face the same lineup twice, let alone 4 times in the last less than 2 months. Abbott's had pretty good results against the Brewers, and we know Milwaukee overall this season doesn't hit lefties too well, but in the last 30 days, Milwaukee's made a lot of improvements against southpaws. When you look at the numbers, team OPS-wise, Milwaukee's ranked 8th in baseball against lefties. They're 10th in isolated power. They also have a much lower strikeout rate against lefties, so I do think it's tough to go against Corbin Burnes right now. He's got a 1.33 ERA in July. He pitched really well against Cincinnati last 2 starts. 27 innings in July, 36 strikeouts. I'm going to take the Milwaukee Brewers here on the money line. Next up, let's go to Slam Diego as the Padres take on the Pirates. We're going to see Blake Snell going for San Diego. And no official starter for the Pirates right now, but I do see Rich Hill listed on ESPN, so he could very well be the starter here. I think the Padres win this game and cover the run line no matter who's on the mound for Pittsburgh. I don't love this bullpen for the Pirates. I don't love the matchup for Rich Hill if he is the starter. And Blake Snell's just been one of the best pitchers in baseball recently. In the month of June, he had a .87 ERA, 31 innings, and 53 strikeouts. He's continued in July. I mean, 21 innings, 29 strikeouts, and a .43 ERA. Doesn't really pitch too deep into ball games, so that would be my only concern. The Padres bullpen hasn't been the best recently, but I still think Snell and the Padres bats will be enough here for a run line cover. So give me San Diego on the run line, laying those 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Chris Bassett and Julio Urias are your starters. Now, both of these starting pitchers, more than most starters in baseball, have very severe home and road splits in 2023. Chris Bassett at the Rogers Center at home this season, he's got a 2.24 ERA and a 6-1 record through 64 1/3 innings. He's only given up 3 home runs. He's got 64 strikeouts and a very low 167 opponent's batting average. However, when you put Bassett on the road, he's got a 5.81 ERA in 57 innings. He's only got 48 strikeouts with a 304 opponent's batting average and 15 home runs conceded. Now, on the other side, Julio Urias, he just gave up 8 earned runs on the road against the Orioles. He's been horrible on the road. He's at a 7.88 ERA in 37 2/3, giving up 10 home runs and a 309 opponent's batting average. But when he pitches at Dodger Stadium, he's a completely different pitcher. 5-1 record with a 2.15 ERA, 37 2/3 innings, 40 strikeouts, a 179 opponent's batting average. The Blue Jays have really struggled against lefties this season, especially in the power department. In the last 30 days, they're 28th in baseball in isolated power against lefties. Give me the Los Angeles Dodgers here on the money line. This lineup is red hot. I think they get to Chris Bassett early and often. Give me the Dodgers on the money line. Next up, we see the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. No official starter for Arizona right now, but I do see Zach Gallen listed on ESPN, so he could be the starter here. Steven Matz should be going for St. Louis. Now, Steven Matz has actually looked a little bit better as of late, compared to what we saw at the beginning of the season in the starting pitching role. And the Diamondbacks against lefties haven't been great this season, nor have they been great in the last 30 days. But they do have a very low strikeout rate and also a pretty high walk rate against lefties in the last month at 10.6%. So for a guy like Steven Matz who has control issues, that's a little, a bit of a worry for me with him in this spot. He hasn't been great on the road this season with a 5.49 ERA. For me, if Gallen's starting, a pretty good option for Arizona. Don't love this Cardinals bullpen, so I'm going to lean towards the Arizona Diamondbacks on the run line here, laying those 1.5 runs. And the final game for Tuesday's card in Major League Baseball, it's the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland Athletics. We're going to see Ken Waldichuk and Alex Cobb as the probable starters. Now, I really can't trust this Giants lineup right now. We saw another game on Monday afternoon against the Tigers. Only 1 run scored, only 4 base hits. This team is struggling offensively against lefties and righties in the last month. And we saw this weekend against the Washington Nationals where the Giants were pretty heavy favorites in the first 2 games, and then they were a favorite in the final game by about -120 range. They lost all 3 of those games. They got swept by the Nationals. And, I don't love their outlook for this series offensively either. I mean, Ken Waldichuk's not my favorite starting pitcher, that's for sure. And the A's bullpen's also not been great this season, but it doesn't really matter who the Giants have faced. They have struggled to get on the board. Tarek Skubal, they faced on Monday afternoon. He gave up 7 earned runs in his previous start against the Royals. He goes out against San Francisco, goes 5 innings of 9 strikeout shutout baseball. So, Waldichuk, like I said, he hasn't had a great season this year, 6.75 ERA. I think he pitches pretty well in this game. Don't trust this A's lineup at all, and Alex Cobb's pitched really well at Oracle Park this season, so give me the under here in San Francisco, Oakland, at a pitcher-friendly ballpark 10 tonight. And that's it. Those are the games for Tuesday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, but don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bet, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.